A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Hey guys, today we are talking about something that many people going through a midlife crisis divorce experience, but almost no one talks about openly, and that is when the affair partner doesn't just enter the picture. They try to step into your life, your role, your family, your history, your children, maybe even your clothes. Almost as if the past 20, 25, or 30 years never even happened. And for many left behind spouses, the behavior of the affair partner can become incredibly disturbing. Some affair partners appear to believe that they can simply walk into an existing family system and replace the spouse, not build something new of their very own, but replace. This often looks like trying to gain approval from the children, expecting the family, the extended family, friends, and neighbors to welcome them, thinking they can have the social role that the spouse once held, and believing that the past marriage was meaningless. We'll just erase 20, 30, 40 years. But you know what, guys? We all know families are not interchangeable parts. You cannot erase decades of shared history. It's not like a little play at the theater or where you just, this season we're going to have a new actor or actress. Yeah, this is real life, not a play. And when someone tries to do this, it often creates massive resistance from the children and extended family. And another little dynamic that occurs more often than people realize is obsession with the spouse they replaced or they think they replaced. Sometimes the affair partner monitors the spouse online, cyberstalks them, talks about them constantly, tries to provoke them, calls or messages them, spreads narratives about them. And which raises an important question. If your relationship is so wonderful, why are you still so focused on the former spouse? Healthy relationships are not built around fixation on someone outside the relationship. In some of these cases, the situation actually escalates beyond awkward or uncomfortable. It becomes harassment. Some spouses have reported that the affair partner calls them directly, texts them, uses threatening language, spreads accusations, attempts intimidation, and tries to provoke reactions. And this is where boundaries become absolutely critical. Because engaging in harassment towards someone whose marriage you disrupted is not just inappropriate, you guys. It can become legally problematic. There's even a replacement wife fantasy. This is a psychological dynamic that sometimes appears in affairs where the new partner develops what could be described as replacement fantasy. Instead of recognizing that they entered into a complicated situation with someone in a mental health situation, they begin to imagine that they can actually step into the role that someone else built over decades. They want that admiration, the social position, the family structure, the emotional loyalty, the identity of the spouse they replaced. Well, newsflash for affair partners, families are not empty houses that someone could just move into. They are systems built over years, sometimes decades. And when someone attempts to take that role, it often creates resistance rather than acceptance. Another strange dynamic that many left behind spouses report is that the affair partner becomes obsessed with them, which is ironic because if someone truly felt secure in their new relationship, they sure wouldn't need to focus on the person they supposedly replaced. But many of you report to me that the affair partner is out there monitoring your social media, stalking you on there, talking about you constantly, trying to provoke reactions. Another thing that frequently happens is an attempt to rewrite history. Suddenly, the spouse who stood by someone for decades becomes the problem, the reason for unhappiness, the controlling one, the disrespectful one. This rewriting of history serves a purpose, you guys. It helps justify the affair because it's really hard to tell yourself you destroyed a good marriage. So the brain often rewrites the story so the destruction feels justified, which we have talked about many times. And honestly, one of the most unrealistic expectations that some affair partners have is that the children will simply welcome them into the family. But children often see things very clearly. They know who raised them, who protected the family. They know who was there their entire lives. And many adult children refuse to participate in a situation that feels like a betrayal of their parent, which creates a painful dynamic where the parent in crisis is saying, if you want a relationship with me, you must accept this person. And the children say no. And when that happens, the parent in crisis begins prioritizing the affair partner over their own children. Conversations revolve around the new person. Approval is demanded. Loyalty tests appear. But you know what? Relationships cannot survive forced allegiance. And when a parent demands that children accept someone who helped destroy the family, you know, guys, that's when many children simply walk away. You know, I have seen situations where affair partners reach out to the former spouse, swears at them, threatens them, and, watching someone behave as if they could simply step into the life you've spent decades building, the truth is it reveals something really important about that person. It reveals the affair partner's major insecurity because people who feel secure in their relationship, they sure don't need to attack someone else, you know? And psychologically, several things may be going on for them. One, insecurity about their relationship, jealousy of the history the spouse had, desire for validation, competition with the former spouse, and attempts to control that narrative. But none of these things create a stable foundation for a relationship. In fact, it often reveals a deep instability in the situation itself. Bob, and if you're an affair partner listening to this show, and just know if you truly believe you won a prize by taking someone else's spouse, you shouldn't have to compete with the person who came before you. You shouldn't need to stalk them. You shouldn't need to call them at 1 a.m. and threaten them. And you certainly shouldn't be trying to erase decades of life that they built before you arrived. Because here's the reality, dear. You didn't start the story. You walked into the middle of it. And no amount of anger, intimidation, or obsession is going to rewrite the truth of what came before you. Another thing that shocks families is how fiercely the person in crisis begins defending the affair partner, even when the affair partner behaves badly, even when the children are upset, and even when the extended family is concerned. This intense defense often happens because the relationship has become psychologically fused with their identity. If the affair partner is criticized, it feels like they themselves are being criticized. So they respond with extreme defensiveness. It is crazy. There's also another powerful force at work, and that is cognitive dissonance. When someone destroys a marriage, hurts their children, and causes enormous damage, the brain struggles with that reality, so it looks for ways to justify the decision. And as we know, one way to do that is to elevate the new partner to an almost heroic status. They convince themselves that, oh my God, this person is the most important thing in my life. Because if that isn't true, well, then the destruction they caused becomes way harder to face. And one of the saddest realities in these situations is when your MLCer in crisis often believes everyone else should simply move on and accept the new life they created. But relationships don't reset like a computer. Families remember, children remember, history remembers, friends and family and neighbors, they all remember. And sometimes the hardest truth of all is this: when someone tries to replace a spouse and erase the past, they often end up losing the very people they thought would eventually fall in line. And to the affair partner out there trying like crazy to become the spouse that you think you're replacing, just know you can take someone's spouse, but you can't take the life they built. You were not chosen because you were extraordinary. You were simply present when someone was drowning in their own mental chaos. And when a person is caught in a psychological storm, almost anyone nearby can look like a life raft. But life rafts, you guys, are not destinations. They are temporary survival tools. And when the storm ends and clarity returns, the life rafts are left behind, sometimes with regret, sometimes with major embarrassment, and sometimes with complete disgust. And when that moment of clarity does come, the person who thought they were the great love of someone's life may suddenly realize they were simply a symptom of the crisis. Because the truth is this: when the mind is in chaos, people make choices that they later struggle to recognize as their own. And one day, when the storm inside their mind finally settles, they look around the wreckage of their life and they realize something totally devastating. The person they believed was their salvation was never the destination. They were just part of the storm. And you know what's funny, you guys? If someone truly believes they replaced you, they wouldn't spend so much time trying to erase you. And this is why many affair partners end up spending way more energy fighting the spouse and talking about the former spouse than actually building the relationship they supposedly wanted. Thanks for joining me today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond, you guys. And remember, when your MLC person's crisis finally ends, that affair partner that they're with, that person may discover something deeply uncomfortable. They were never the solution. They were simply what the storm dragged in. Like a big old thing of seaweed. They are just a life raft. So go have a great day, and I will see you on the next episode of MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. Thanks for joining me today. Hey guys, this is Trina, and I want to take a moment to speak directly to anyone who didn't choose the collapse but is living with the aftermath. When a spouse enters midlife crisis, the damage doesn't unfold slowly. It happens like an explosion. One day you're living a shared life. The next, the person you trusted has emotionally disappeared, rewriting history, minimizing the damage, and running from the very family they helped build. Friends are confused. The story gets simplified. And the spouse left behind is often expected to handle it quietly, gracefully, all while absorbing the fallout all alone. After the bomb drop, a survival guide for the left behind spouse was written for you. This book doesn't offer platitudes or false hope. It names what others avoid. Inside, I will walk you through what is actually happening when someone runs from themselves, why chasing answers only deepens the wound, and how to stabilize your life after emotional abandonment, emotionally, legally, and within your family. In this book, we talk about why these departures feel so sudden and destabilizing, because they are. Why the spouse who stays is often blamed, erased, or silenced. Why saving yourself is not abandonment, and how to grieve someone who is still alive while finding your footing again. This book does not promise reconciliation. It offers you guys something more necessary at this time, and that is stability, dignity, and a way forward when someone else has chosen to run. After the bomb drop, the survival guide for the left behind spouse is available now on Amazon Kindle in both ebook and paperback. It's also available in audio on Spotify. And if you're standing in the blast radius and wondering how to survive what you didn't cause, this book was written for you. Hey, some resources that are available for you guys are thewifeexpert.com. That's Lori McDermott over there at thewifeexpert.com. She also has a new app out. There's tons of videos that can give you all kinds of information on no matter where you are on your MLC journey or trying to reconcile with your spouse. So check out thewifeexpert.com. And if you're not sure if your spouse or yourself is in maybe approaching or in a midlife crisis, be sure to check out Kenda Root's quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, that's a midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. That's a quick little 2-minute quiz. It's free. So check that out as well. We have a ton of resources out there for you guys. So check them out. Thanks. Hey, if you have a story you'd like to share with our listeners, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email mlcbombdrop@gmail.com. Again, that's mlcbombdrop@gmail.com. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.